This is part 3 of the tutorial. Now that you've successfully exported your file from Blender 2.49 and 2.79, you successfully exported it as an, in my case, FBX file that you can then work with. So if you use 2.79, you could then use the free plugin Cats and either choose to keep the settings as is, or what I do prefer, I uncheck join meshes and also I uncheck combine same materials. In some cases I have had trouble with several materials accidentally being merged that use different texture files, so just a heads up. So then we click on OK. So next step I like to do is the next thing I like to do is to actually merge the two armatures together. As you can see, there's bind armature and a regular armature. So if you just want to get rid of the second armature, you just click on merge all bones and uncheck remove zero weight bones. Then let's click on merge armatures. And boom, there's only one armature left. Next, we check here again and uncheck remove zero weight bones. I just like to keep the armature as close to the game rig as possible. If you want to export it for VR chat or something like that, you may want to remove those zero weight bones. So now we click on fix model. And once my PC is actually applied the changes, you should see the textures reappear. Et voila, there they are. So next thing, since I mentioned it last time, the model is rotated 30 degrees on its x-axis. So we click, first check the armature, then we press R on the keyboard, press X on the keyboard, and then we can just type in 90 and it will automatically be rotated the proper way. So now we can save again, save, and since we've now successfully saved it, we can also choose to export the file again. Should the file already exist, you can just choose to export again, and with that the model is successfully exported. Next, I like to import this model into Blender 3.4, but any version starting with 2.8 should be fine. And that is just to fix any weird material color assigned to the model. And you can also change the transparency on the wings as well as the sleeves on the arm. So let's just do that. So now that we've opened Blender 3.41, we'll just go ahead and press on FBX. Then we navigate to our model once again, import FBX, and as is customary for any Blender tutorial, get rid of the default cube and choose the shading on the model in the upper left, upper right corner. And you should see that Blender has imported the model with applied transparency. But not every part of the model has been properly shaded transparent yet. So we check the parts, and usually, should my PC decide to work properly, normally we will then just check for settings where it says blend mode. In blend mode we choose the option alpha hashed, and we'll set the alpha to 1, so it won't seem that part is transparent once we open it in, let's say, Unity or the Unreal Engine. And let's go over to shading. Here we have a node graph where we then pick the alpha node from the texture and connect it to the alpha node input on the principled BSDF shader. So with that, this part has already been fixed. Click on, press the H button on your keyboard to hide it. And now just select the models in succession and assign the alpha to the alpha and set it as alpha hashed. Hide the model, and so on and so forth. So next, assuming you have already gone ahead and fixed all the materials, you will want to connect the normal maps and the specular maps with the principled shader. So you could either navigate to the folder on the left hand side and drag and drop it to the node graph. Then you will select the color node and connect it to color of the normal map node, which has been automatically created when you imported the model. And with that, you have connected the normal map, but as you can see, the bracelets have started to be shaded in a weird way. So we'll need to fix the color space of the texture first. Normal maps are usually not color corrected to the sRGB color space, so you will have to select none color so it won't be as weird. But the next thing is that the normal map is somewhat messed up. So to fix that, we want to add a convert node where we separate the color. It might have a different name in earlier versions of Blender. If I remember correctly, it was separate RGB, where you will want to split the normal map. If you're not sure which of those channels have been mapped with color, you can just connect the separated channel to the material output, where we can see that the bracelets are now shaded in a bright white. And again with green, again with white, and with alpha. So some games like to store their normal maps in a file size saving way, so when it is loaded to memory it wouldn't be as heavy on the memory. So they'll usually pick the green and the alpha channel to store the data for the normal map, or rather the angles for the normals at which they are protruding from the face or vertices. So let's pick a different body yet, where it's easier to see. Add convert node. Separate color. And as you can see, this normal map has some normal informations in its green channel and in its alpha channel. If I connect the blue channel, it should turn white again. So now that we've figured out which of the channels have been assigned with the normal information, we'll then go ahead and pick the green channel and connect it with green, and we've picked the alpha channel and connect it with red. Then we'll set the blue channel to 1. Why I assign it 1 is simple. It is not assigned any color information, so we can just pick the z-axis as a value of 1 and we're done. So as you can see, now the shading has been fixed. So with that, we can then go ahead and export the model once again. Now to fix the normal map in a way that is available in other applications, we can now add a plane, go to UV edit, and see that the UVs for this texture take up the entirety of the UV space. That is important since we now want to bake the texture. Why do we want to bake the texture? Well, the baking actually assigns the color value to the texture file. We can go ahead and pick the same texture as before, assign it to the base color, and we can see that the color information is still messed up. So just like before, we separate the color, combine the color, alpha to red, green to green, and blue as 1. And now you can see it has turned into its characteristic purplish hue. So with that, we are almost done. Now we need to add a new texture, image texture, select the new file size. Let's for now leave it at 1024 by 1024, and let's name it, let's say normal, and press OK and leave it at that. Next thing you want to do is you click on the camera icon on the right hand side and select at render engine cycles. So since we don't want to wait for an eternity, we just pick GPU compute, which will dramatically increase the rendering time. So now we have an option called bake, which we can then collapse, and we'll just pick the diffuse. So we don't want any other color contribution other than the color of the normal map itself, and then we just press on or click on bake, and just like that it will bake it to the finished texture, which you now can just save by clicking on the waffle icon, press on image, save as, pick the folder where the other textures are stored. I prefer to click the normal map it has been fixed by and just add a -fix afterwards, and just click Save. And we are done.